Hi everyone, I am back for the second part of the solutions here. So these were the first two problems you were going to tackle. Before you even think about using the formulas in the upper right hand corner, I would strongly suggest that you identify what each side of your triangle is. So for example, across from the right angle, this blue side will always be your hypotenuse. Across from the 30-degree angle will always be the short leg. And across from the 60-degree angle will always be your long leg. Once you've identified your parts, then you can decide which formula you're going to use. Because you were given the value of 1 on your short leg, you can actually use either of these two formulas first because they both include a red short leg. So I chose to use the bottom one first. It really does not matter. Long leg is equal to the short leg, which is 1 times the square root of 3. 1 times the square root of 3 is just the square root of 3. That's how I knew the value of my long leg. My hypotenuse from the top formula is the short leg, which was 1 times 2, so 2. Done. Now for problem number 11, it did matter which formula you used first. Because you were given the value of the long leg, you had to use the bottom formula. So you were given the green value, so you had to use the green formula. The long leg equals short leg times root 3. To undo the multiplication of the square root of 3, I chose to divide both sides by the square root of 3. So here on this side I divided by the square root of 3, and same thing on this side. Hence how I got to this next step. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. All right, so because there's a square root of 3 in the numerator and the denominator, they cancel out. And you are just left with 5. Now, life is good because once you know the short leg, you can then move to your next formula. And again, you do always have to use both formulas for these 30, 60, and 90 to find all of the missing parts. So when we move to our next formula, the hypotenuse, which is x, is equal to whatever the short leg is times 2. We just figured out in the previous formula that my short leg was 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Here were the next two problems that you were going to tackle. Oh, excuse me. So for problem number 12, again, identify what you were given. You were given the hypotenuse. Therefore, you had to use the top formula first. Your hypotenuse was 9. When to undo the multiplication of 2, we divide by 2, and your short leg is 4.5. Once you know your short leg, you can multiply that by root 3 to get your long leg. So the order does matter based on the information that you're given. For problem number 13, because again you were given the short leg in this triangle, you can actually tackle either formula first, either the top or the bottom. I'm going to take my short leg in my bottom formula and replace it with the 4. So long leg is equal to 4 times root 3, or 4 root 3. Your hypotenuse is whatever your short leg is times 2. So your hypotenuse is 4 times 2, or 8. Oops, sorry about that. Problem number 14. This one I left separate just because the algebra is a little bit tougher for this. It's still the same process. So again, I went ahead and decided, okay, here is my short leg because it's across from the 30. Here's my long leg because it's across from the 60. And my hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. You had no choice for this particular problem. You had to start with the bottom formula because the only value that was given to you was your long leg. So 25 equals the short leg times the square root of 3. Okay, again, to undo the square root of 3 of multiplication, I had to divide. You are not allowed to have a radical in the denominator. So I'm going to rationalize. So remember, we're going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And then we can multiply straight across the numerator and straight across the denominator. So this would give me 25 root 3 over the square root of 9. Life is wonderful because the square root of 9 is regular root 3, and I am done. Now, the second part of this problem, although we're just multiplying by 2, actually presents with a little bit of tough algebra here, because many people ask me, they're like, Miss Shannon, what do you multiply by 2? Do you multiply just the numerator? Do you multiply just the denominator? Do you multiply both by 2? Do you multiply the radical by 2? Okay, so here's the deal. When you're multiplying by 2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 2 divided by 1, or 2 over 1. So we would multiply just like we've been doing with our rationalizing. We'd multiply straight across the numerator and straight across the denominator. Now, just like we talked about at the beginning of this chapter, when we multiply, we need to multiply the same types of numbers together. So this 2 will only multiply with the 25 that's up in the numerator. All right, in quick summary, these are the formulas that you're going to want to use when completing your Math Excel homework assignment tonight. It is so incredibly important that you first identify which type of triangle you're dealing with. If you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, you want to use this single formula. And if you have a 30, 60, 90 triangle, you want to use these two formulas. For our very last one, again, it's a word problem. I know some people are like, no big deal, because we are just doing the exact same thing, where I am looking at just this triangle here. I notice that this triangle is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Therefore, I would use the formula for the 45, 45, 90 up in this right-hand corner. I was given my legs to be 90. So my hypotenuse is just 90 root 2. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is this particular problem, we did round to the nearest tenth, because if you were actually playing a baseball game and you're like, oh my gosh, to throw from first to third base, I just need to throw 90 root 2, people would look at you like you have 14 heads. So typically, if someone asked how far is it from first to third base, you would say about 127 feet. Okay, so the only reason, again, why we went ahead and converted this into the decimal was because it is a word problem and it makes more sense to your readers in that format. All right, you have officially survived both videos. A few things. If you need to go back and reference anything, this post will be in Google Classroom all weekend. If you were confused, feel free to poke your neighbor sitting next to you and ask them any questions. If you still need additional clarification, the ARC is a phenomenal place. This is something peer tutors would really know. We're going to be using this for the rest of the semester, so they have a very firm grip with this, or you can go and ask the math teacher. All right, you guys, I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Please do not forget to go into Math Excel and finish your homework. Your next quiz is not until next Friday. Have a great weekend.